Will you sing with me?
What's that?
Will you sing with me?
Only if you want me to.
Okay, yes.
I should have known that I with a girl like you. That I would love everything that you do.
Hey, it's Donna Drake, and I'm lighting my face because I'm out here at night on the tarmac at JFK. We are here right in front of Connie. We are at the TWA Hotel, and we are here for the Fest, and it is a festival for Beatle fans all over the world. Join me.
This could only happen to me. Can't you see? Can't you see?
Is this your first festival?
It is.
Mine too. And you're my first interview.
Oh,
all right,
thank
great.
you. Wow, double.
We're here for the Fest, and it's a great festival for Beatle fans. How many times have you been to this festival?
Probably over the years, over 10 times.
What do you love best about the Beatles?
Best about the music. I mean, it's like the best band ever.
So tell us about your experience. Is this your first Fest for Beatle fans?
So it's actually my second. I reached out to the kind of like, I don't know how to...
Mark, the guy that's like running it, or... Okay.
Is Danny Abreno. Yeah, he's very nice. And I sent him like my videos and stuff, and he really liked them, and he invited me to come. And then last year I performed, and then he invited me to come back.
What were you most surprised to see here today? I think for me, it's much bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah. I think just the whole like environment. It's very 60s mod, which I love. I love 60s. And I just think everything is so great.
So you grew up just loving the Beatles. I love the fact that you were able to dangle in front of the television that your parents said, please remember this, and you have. So it's kind of like the storybook or the soundbook of your life, along with other music, but what an extraordinary start.
Yes, the Beatles have always been there for me, and I think when I would say came of intellectual age, which might sound precocious because I was 10, but I remember vividly hearing I Am the Walrus for the first time, and that it absolutely captured my imagination. And I was interested in writing by that time. I was writing short stories and poetry and being singled out for that at school. And the Beatles had always been on the radio, but now they were penetrating my imagination and making me want to know anything and everything about them. And I became a Beatles kind of obsessive from about the age of 10, and I've been reading about them and thinking about them and following them ever since.
What do you like best about the BeatleFest? So Brian says, I've been coming for so many years, mostly in Chicago, and the Beatles bring people together, and it's almost like a family.
I started going to BeatleFest back in the mid-'70s. I think they started in 74, and I started going in like 76.
What are you loving best about this festival?
All the smiles. Everyone is here and loving it, and everyone is just smiling, and it's a big family.
TWA Hotel is pretty exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's the original hotel, the original terminal, and it's just exciting to see they haven't really changed a lot of the things from the 60s. Like they have the foam boots, they have still the shoe shine boots, and it's pretty cool.
This is a special fest. This is a special fest.
Why is this your special fest?
Number what? This is our number one fest at JFK. We've been going to the fest 27 years. Yes, in Chicago.
Chicago.
We are from Chicago, and we love the fest. We find all that our friends are here. We love getting together, singing. We love all the Beatles music.
Yes. We've made the best of friends. I've met these people the first day, and we're still friends 20 plus years later. We met New York people at the fest. We're still friends with them. We still hang out with them here. It's just a fantastic community of Beatle fans.
How exciting. What did you love best about this year?
This year it was so great to see so many talented people. There's just like an enormous amount of talent here, and we love the music and what they bring to it. They bring their own kind of flavor and just authentic sound.
The most amazing thing was to see somebody like Frida Kelly just walk by in front of me, and I'm like, I know her from a documentary film. And then jumping up to talk to her.
They showed a documentary, and here, I guess it was Steve and Elizabeth, and then afterwards you did a Q&A. Yeah. So how many times have you done BeatleFest?
Well, in America, I'd done New Jersey, I'd done New York twice, I'd done Chicago twice, I'd done LA once, I've done Mexico twice. That's like fests. But to promote the DVD when it first came out, naturally I went to a lot of film festivals.
Joining us now is the founder of the BeatleFest. This is celebrating 50 years, so exciting. And this exact weekend was also the date of the Beatles coming here 60 years ago. Serendipitous, right?
Well, that's why we picked this place. It's a new hotel, it's gorgeous, and this is where they landed. So how can we not celebrate it? And, the 9th was on yesterday. That was the day 60 years ago they played the Ed Sullivan show, and to this day, it's the largest audience in the history of television by percentage of population, bigger than any Super Bowl. 47% of the country tuned in to see these four guys, and the next day, that's all we talked about at school. In April of '74, that's when I met John Lennon. I wasn't going to do the fest without their support, and in '74, they were suing each other. But I found them through a lot of coincidences, through the shirt, it's true, and I went, knocked on his door, found out where he was staying. Harry Nielsen opened the door, who later became a dear friend of ours. I said, "Hi, I'm Mark Lapidus. I'd like to speak to John about BeatleFest." "Come on in." So I sat down. John came in a few minutes later, shook his hand, and we sat down, we spoke face to face, and I told him the whole idea, and he said, "I'm all for it. I'm a Beatles fan, too."
All right, Brian's telling me that he travels for free because he actually won an all-expense-paid trip to Vegas for writing this amazing essay that he did about this song. I got a chance to interview Brian Smith, who has cerebral palsy, and he goes to your Chicago BeatleFest, and he actually won one of the contests, which allowed him to go to Vegas. Such a nice man.
Oh, yes.
I have met so many people, Mark, and every time I meet somebody, whether it's their first fest or it's their 50th fest, I want to just acknowledge you for what you did. You yourself are iconic, humble and kind, but also but it's a big deal. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of responsibility that you say to yourself, you know what, one more year. Every year you say that to yourself.
Well, no, I just keep doing it. It's just you wake up and there you are. That's my work. That's what I do. But I still find it hard to believe I'm doing anything for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, 50 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
And this is our 50th anniversary show, and it's like it boggles my mind that I can actually be doing something that I was from a little acorn of an idea by this 26-year-old kid, and then all of a sudden it becomes the cover story of Rolling Stone.
Yes.
It becomes the cover story of Melody Maker magazine, the two biggest papers. And I mean, how much bigger can you get than the cover of Rolling Stone?
What do you currently have in your home that every time you walk through that door, that threshold, that you just feel like you're so connected?
I don't keep it out, but on the first day of the first BeatleFest, when Tony King brought in all the guitars that were signed, and John signed 6 of his Penguin John Lennon book, and then he said, "And this one, John wanted me to give to you personally." And I looked at it, and it said, "To Mark with love, September BeatleFest 1974, a little drawing, and signed it with love, John Lennon."
I like the story last night when you were talking about the fact that the first time you shook his hand and then you kept looking at your hand.
did.
It's like when a girl gets engaged and she keeps looking at her ring.
Right, it's true. I mean, I walked around London that night, and I shook one of God's hands, and I did. Later on, I found out that thousands of people, young people my age, early 20s, went to England to try to get a job to work for the Beatles. And I said to my friend Bob, "I want to work for the Beatles." And I got back home in August and then went to Woodstock the next weekend. So we June 13th meeting John Lennon, August 15th to 17th. I was there all 3 days, and that convinced me. I said, "I'm going to be in the music." My father was a band leader. So I said, "The music business is for me. I got to be in it." And I tried getting a job at Capitol Records working for the Beatles. They're selling Beatles records, and they didn't have any offerings at the time. So
the universe created an opportunity
I
for
went
you.
to Sam Goody on October 1st, 1969 for a job, and there it was, an album of 4 guys walking across the street. Didn't say anything about what the album was, what the name was, or who it was. Of course, you didn't have to. So I didn't ask for a job. I took the record, bought it, and went home and listened to it all night. The next day I came back and got the job.
In your research, did you find something surprising to you?
Okay.
A little nugget of something?
Yeah, you know what? If we were going to go on this theme of the Gap, well, it's not. It's actually more elevated, I want to say. It is Canadian. It's what these days you call mastige. But in the day, in the 60s, Le Chateau, a Canadian fashion retailer with chains across the country, was the last word in European fashion, repurposed for a North American market. I don't know if your listeners would know this, but Montreal is a legendary hub for fashion manufacturing. So Le Chateau was able to go abroad and see the fashions in Carnaby Street, bring them back, and as I mentioned, redefine them for a different body type and sensibility over here in North America. Well, when John Lennon and Yoko Ono go to Montreal for the bed-in, that was their conceptual art honeymoon, the founder of Le Chateau, Herschel Siegel, came to the bed-in, and he was able to get John Lennon and Yoko to shop at Le Chateau. The Beatles had shopped at Le Chateau in 1964. That I didn't know. And John bought a unisex black velour zip front bell bottom leg onesie, which everybody will know as what he's wearing on the cover of Hey Jude, a made in Canada fast fashion unisex item. And he loved that jumpsuit and wore it in various ways when he came back to Canada in the end of December in '69 to meet then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. He's wearing his jumpsuit. There are a couple of breaks in there. A fellow Canadian, Pierce Hemmingson, who is Canada's authority on the Beatles in Canada, and believe me, there's a big history there. He very kindly donated a couple of images to this book. For instance, what I write about is that the Beatles were so instantly popular, their look was so instantly popular that manufacturers were tripping over each other in order to replicate their looks. And again, not only Le Chateau in more the pop side of it, the Carnaby side, but those collarless suits and velvet collar suits were made by the likes of the Hudson's Bay Company in Canada, from Vancouver to Quebec, and Pierce had in his collection catalog replicas of some of these suits.
Joining us now is Piers, and we are going to be talking about this lovely, gigantic gorgeousness. Tell us what this is, the Beatles in Canada. Tell us about this, Piers.
Yeah, this is the first volume of a 2-volume series called The Beatles in Canada. This one is called The Origins of Beatlemania, so it talks about how the Beatles conquered Canada in 1963, so a little bit ahead of Ed Sullivan.
So the Canadians were first, is what you're trying to say.
Canadians had that connection with the United Kingdom, so a lot of kids moving back and forth between the United Kingdom and Canada, and word of mouth with the Beatles. So Capitol Records in Canada issued Beatle records right from the get-go. So February of 1963, they issued Love Me Do, and then the first album is in November. So by the time they come to do Ed Sullivan in February of '64, Canada's already had #1 records with She Loves You, and I know down here in the States, it's I Want to Hold Your Hand, it broke the Beatles. So I kind of come at it from a Canadian perspective. I'm about to publish the second volume, which is the blue one, which goes from 1964 to 1970. That will be out in May of this year.
Okay.
It's on Amazon.co.uk as a pre-order.
Well, here we are. We're literally backstage. How many fests have you done?
Oh, I've been coming since the late 70s, so I was never too great at math, but it's got to be over 40 years at this point.
Why do you feel that people still, after this is the 50th fest, why do people still turn up time and time again? What is it about this special festival?
You realized you were going to be among a community of people who felt the same passion you had for the same band and the same music, and literally it's made countless friendships worldwide, certainly for me, and I know many, many other people here.
Now, you shared with me before we walked backstage that you got to interview Paul McCartney. So I want to know about that. Well, first of all, let me knight you for that.
Yes.
In our industry, it's access. And when you get a good name like that, wow, right? Life-changing for you a little bit?
Not a little bit, a lot of it.
A lot of
it. We actually played the interview here. It was recorded for Sirius XM. Paul, Ringo, Apple, they really are great partners to Sirius XM in supporting the Beatles channel. And it was the anniversary of my favorite Paul McCartney album called Tug of War. And we said, you know, we'd like to do this and sit down and go track by track and see what Paul has to say about this album. And they wrote back a note saying, hey, he's into it. So, you know, it was arranged that I'd meet Paul at his office. And this was back in the fall of 2022. He was, all I can say was he was a list of really good adjectives. He was funny, he was friendly, he was smart, he was forthcoming, but more than anything, he was engaged. We've interviewed so many people on a show that I do on Sirius called the Fab Forum. We've had guests who we have on every week, and whether they are musicians who've worked with the Beatles, associates of theirs, friends of theirs, British invasion people, musicians they influenced, the entire spectrum. And there's times you can tell when people are at one side either really engaged and passionate about it, or when they're doing it because they kind of have to, because they've, you know, covered a Beatles song to put in a movie or something, and they just kind of have to do it. Paul absolutely made me feel like he wanted to do this. He was completely focused and engaged. That's really the best word I can use. He told some Beatles stories that my head had to be spinning like the kid in The Exorcist. He told Beatles stories because the album has so many Beatles connections. He wrote his tribute to John, with the song called Here Today is on that album. The Beatles producer George Martin was called in to produce it. The Beatles engineer Jeff Emmerich was called in to engineer it. Oh, and by the way, Ringo Starr plays drums on the album. So it has a very Beatles-rich heritage and bloodline to the album, and he was very willing to talk about all of that. And he was just splendid.
So I want you guys to come back here, and I want you to give me your very best impression of the dance. You know the dance? The monkey dance. Okay. So come this way. You got this. I know you got this. Oh, so come back here. So you go really wide to your right, okay? And then put all your weight on your right foot, Tom. Here we go. Now you're going to go really wide on your left foot. Okay? Now you put all your weight on your left foot. Now go really wide with your right foot. See, you get it? Remember? Okay. Come on. We have, okay. And what is your name? What's your name?
Eileen.
Hi, Eileen. I'm Donna Drake. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Here we come.
Walking down the street.
Yeah, I just hope I don't kick you one.
Boom.
I just hope I don't kick you one. Okay.
We're off to go see Mickey Dolan. Stay tuned.
See Mickey Dolan.
Now, I would love to give your best.
Well, in 1967, I was living in London for a while, and we found out where they were filming, and we went down to Kent, and we sort of filmed 4 days with the Beatles while they were doing Magical Mystery Tour. And we got a nanosecond in the movie, and it was great. They were all wonderful.
And what is your name, and what town are you from?
I'm from Bayside, New York, and my name is Barbara Burton.
Nice to meet you. And what is your name, and what's your Beatles story?
My name is Cindy Coffin. I currently live in Florida, but was born and raised in New York. I first met Paul in 1974, right before he went out to the Oscars for Live and Let Die. It was nominated for best song and picture. I met all these lovely people at that time, at 71 actually, and we've been friends like forever since. It's all because of them. It's always all because of them. We would never have had these connections otherwise. So.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to rotate you, and we're going to come this way. Tell us your story and how you met the Beatles.
There's another friend I know.
What's her name? Susie?
This is Susan.
Hi, Susan. Come on over. I know. Just hi, I'm Donna Drake, and you are?
I'm Susan Ryan.
Excellent. And what do you love best about the Beatles, and do you know them all?
I know them all, definitely, and I love everything about them.
Susan's one of the great speakers here. She's amazing. So
They're building me up.
I know where you are. You're on your way. So
Yes,
it's so nice that you stopped by.
I'm glad. These are my friends. That's why they saw me.
Tours in New York. Yeah.
And you know what? And we're going to be joining that. We've got a couple more friends here. And your name is? Oh, wait, I didn't get to find out how you met the Beatles.
Well, I first saw John and Paul. I never saw them in concert, unfortunately. Okay. But when I first saw Paul, it was in 1968 when John and Paul came in, and I got Paul in the headlock, and I kissed him on the neck.
There you go, your magical mystery kiss, right?
Hi, I'm Joanne McCormick, formerly from Floral Park, now Jupiter, Florida. My nickname growing up was Johnny. Guess why? I didn't meet the Beatles so much. I met Paul later on. Yes, I did. I did.
And you got a cute jacket, The Chosen. Is that from that TV show?
Yes. Got to see The Chosen. I was in the first row at Shea Stadium in 1965, and I've been photographed. I was on the ABC thing, different network.
Oh, no, that's okay. I love them all.
I've been in multiple films and books and a lot of
Nice. We just went upstairs and saw the Shea Stadium video, and we were yelling.
And 1966, I went over the barricades and whatever, was pulled off the field by the cops.
I thought you looked familiar. Wait, turn around. Yeah, oh, that's her. I see her hair. I see her hair. Is she flipped right over?
Yeah, the friendships we've made over the years are just phenomenal. Like Cindy and I came in from Florida, Rita came in from Texas just to be together and just to have a great time. And it's phenomenal.
Way to go fast. Okay.
From Jersey.
I drove from Long Island.
Okay, so my name is Rita Sotilli. I'm from Queens, New York originally. I live in Dallas, Texas now.
Big D.
Big D, I love it. And we all met, as we said, over 50 years ago, but it's not just about the music. It's about we have friendships and we've all grown up together, so it's enduring. My story is a little different than theirs because I used to have my own Beatle fan club that led to me going to the Beatles record company in New York basically every day while I was in high school after school. And I got to be so much of a pain in the butt that one day they said, Rita, you're here so much anyway. Would you like a summer job? They hired me to work for the Beatles, so I worked for them for 2 years. From 68 to 70 until they broke up, so I've met all of them. And then, but I wanted to tell you this one piece. So then years later, I ended up working for the airlines, and then I retired from them and went out to the Academy Awards, and then I got to sit next to Paul McCartney at the Oscars, 2002, and I got to tell him, by the way, you were my boss at one point. He said, what? And I told him that I worked for him and what an incredible honor it was and how his music has been the backdrop of my life and got me through so much. And I thanked him for writing the song Lovely Rita.
And you are Lovely Rita. You are Lovely Rita. Yes. Hi. Good, I'm Donna Drake.
She got her arm signed by Paul.
Oh, look at this. This is like a true fan. Look at this.
He used to call people up on stage during his concerts. Of course, COVID decided otherwise.
This is my new friend, Rita, as you know. Okay, Rita, here you go.
Yeah, so I met this lovely lady named Donna by accident, but as we all know in life, not by accident. She's so awesome. She's got such a great spirit. She's coming to my state of Texas, the free state of Texas, where we love everybody. And I just felt so moved by her and her openness and being so kind to my Beatle friends and I that know each other half a century, that I gave her something that I wanted her to remember me by, and she selected a certain color. Could you turn that over now and read what it says, please?
Yes. I chose yellow because my mother always communicates to me through yellow roses, and she passed away on January the 31st in the year 1990. I know that she's always with me, and also yellow submarine. So here we go. All right, and the card says, a fun ticket, and it's good for life. Oh, you're going to make me cry, Rita.
No, you're going to read it because you've earned it. I'll read it. Okay. Fun ticket, good for life. Dream big, laugh, love a lot, sing, dance, be amazing and authentic. Live out loud and full throttle. Seize the day because this life is not a dress rehearsal. So it's not for free. There's one rule.
Yes.
You can't give it to anybody because you've earned it because of your really great nature. So God bless you. If we can still say God bless you.
Yes, we can. Thank you
And
so
I wish you the best luck.
much.
I'm going to see you in Dallas, girlfriend. Lovely lady.
That's right, Channel 21. I'll be there. Stay tuned. So last time we met was we were in London at Abbey Road Studios. And tell us about that experience for you. You were celebrating a birthday.
You know, it's very strange because, like, there was a hell of a lot of work went into that, you know. For a long time before, it was like, somebody said it was like arranging a wedding.
Yes.
You know, with all the different guests. There was a hell of a lot went into it. And organizing to go into Abbey Road Studios and record 10 songs in a day or a couple of days, you know, because these days people take 6 months to make an album. But to go in and do 10 songs was a lot. Apart from, like, you know, the party was a lot of fun. I had some great musicians, and it came together very quickly. But it was a lot, a hell of a lot. You know, it was strange being in a room where, you know, I'd sat with the Beatles, where John Lennon played "Me Bad to Me" and "Do You Want to Know a Secret?" I Call Your Name. It was strange. I was stood in the spot, and I was thinking, you know, I can't believe that I sang "Little Children" here. I can't believe that I sang "Trains and Boats" in this room.
Now, your song, Are You With Me,
Yes.
right? That's exciting. Are you going to be performing that sometime soon, or?
It's out today.
Today.
It was released.
Happy birthday to your new song.
Yeah, it was out today, which is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles coming to New York.
Tell us about that. I saw a little bit of the music video. You were there with them,
Yes.
right? And do you feel that kindred spirit? Do you feel a connection to that time in your life, or to the boys, or?
Sometimes.
Okay.
It's, you know, it's strange because it's like I'll be at home sometimes and something will go click, you know. It's strange.
So how many songs are on this new release? So this today is this new one, and then
Are You With Me is a song that, you know, it's so funny because, I mean, I've been, you know, I surf a lot, and I'm always searching for stuff. It's a song that I've been sitting on, and a few other songs for quite a while. It was a song, you know, written by a guy called Tom Hambridge, who's written songs for a lot of people. He produces Buddy Guy, he's a friend of mine. And I played it to Lawrence Duper and Jeff Kerr-Holtz, who produced the album. And they put it together. And it's funny because it's been sitting there, and when we put it together, I thought this is perfect for now. Even though it's been sitting on my desk for 4 or 5 years, it just seems right for now.
Yes.
I couldn't think of what I was going to call the album, but this song I just thought was perfect. There's another great song on it called "I Couldn't Have Done It Without You," which we're going to bring out. That's going to be the follow-up.
I watch you perform, though, you have the audience right in the palm of your hand. It's like a love connection, you know? Yeah, it's true. When I was there at your birthday party, and we're all in Abbey Road Studio, and we're watching you perform, you have this beautiful way about you. It's an ebb and a flow. It's like you give so much of yourself, and I think people like that.
I guess that's what it's all about, really. You know, I guess that's what I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is, let's face it, you get on a stage and you want people to like you. And it's nice to be liked, you know. It's, you know, I guess it's got easier with age. When I was younger, it was like, I always felt like that you go on the stage and they don't like you, and you've got to win them over and gradually But as I got older, I just thought like,
This is all I got, right? This is all I got.
nothing to hide. This is what this is what I am. I'm sorry. No. What you see is what you get.
Joining us now is renowned artist Shannon. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. How many BeatleFests have you done? How many BeatleFests?
Oh, God, I've been doing this since, I think I started 91.
One of the things that I noticed is that you were using what I would call a fan brush, and ever so lightly, almost like as light as a feather. How is it what is your technique? That it's almost like you're applying the paint, but it's almost like has an airy whisper to it.
It's actually an airbrush, very intricate airbrush from Japan. It's called an Iwata, and it's for very, very fine details. So it does kind of, like you're saying, the whisper thing. It's basically air that comes out of this hose, goes through that little machine, and kind of there's a paint cup on top. So as the air's going through, it's siphoning the paint, and then the rest is up to me.
Did you just start this one here recently, or did you already have like a little bit of a base going before you came to the festival?
This one is just today. So by the end of the festival, I'll have it finished.
A masterpiece within a few hours. It's just fantastic. Shannon, thank you. So tell us about your experience here with the fest. How many years have you been coming, and what is your connection to it?
Well, my connection is, first I would come to enjoy being a Beatles fan with my husband, and we even brought our son one time. But as it went on, I was fascinated by the art room, and I ended up really connecting with the woman who runs the art room, which is Deco, and she's very beloved at the fest. And we started talking about art and the love of all the fans and all the creativity the Beatles inspire in people. And I started hanging out there, and then we hit it off, and we started also collaborating on an idea about all the artists and designers and gallerists and illustrators and creative people who were in the trajectory of the Beatles in mid to late 60s London, which is a very interesting story. So we created a multimedia little presentation about that. We did that for a couple of years, and that was really fun. It's an amazing history. There were some amazing artists and designers who were involved. So that is a long story and too long to go into now.
No, it's wonderful. But here in this, you created something in the art room here.
Well, in this edition, because this is at the beautiful TWA Hotel, which has been a favorite of mine, as a graphic designer who studies graphic design and type design for years, I've loved the TWA Hotel. And what makes it so great is that you see the design of the 60s and late 50s, early 60s, which really resonates with me. Anyway, I've loved the TWA Hotel, and because BeatleFest was going to be there, I was starting to think about all the vintage posters designed by David Klein in the early 60s Beatles era. And it just occurred to me it would be really fabulous to make parodies of these posters based on the lyrics in Beatles songs. So I set to work. The first one, of course, is Penny Lane, but I also made deeper dives and did things like Blackburn, Lancashire, all the holes, and Isle of Wight, which is When I'm 64, and I went on and on. So I made sketches, and then I set to work, and I got imagery, and they came out lovely. And I even studied the font, and now Fly TWA is really Fly Beatles Air. So the posters have been a big hit. The attendees have been really loving them. It's so rich and just rich with creativity, and there's a lot of joy here, and there's such a nice, it's just like a sweetness to the community of Beatle fans.
I mean, the Beatles to me are the zenith of Western Civ. And, that's one of the reasons we chose to write about one of them. I've written a couple of books about the Beatles as a group before. One was just called The Beatles from the Cavern to the Rooftop. And the other one was something that the Times published as an ebook called it was called Got That Something, How the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand Changed Everything.
Tell us about what happened in 1969 in Paul's journey. Where do we start with this? I'm going to go with you, Adrian, on that.
Well, thinking like a filmmaker, we needed to find a scene, I always say, to start this book. And what was the most dramatic moment in 1969 for Paul? Well, it actually came just after a meeting the Beatles had in September of that year, in which John Lennon basically declared that he wanted a divorce from the Beatles. So Paul then took himself to Scotland with Linda. And as you can imagine, he wasn't particularly in a great way mentally. He started drinking a lot. And he was approached by a couple of journalists working for Time magazine. And his response to their arrival at his house was to throw a bucket of kitchen scraps towards them. And then he also went for the photographer, Terence Spencer. I think he actually punched Terence Spencer, didn't he? So as far as, dramatic starts to a book go, we couldn't really have picked a better scene than that. And then really... That's right, yeah, it was. His heart was broken, yeah. And then we follow the story of how Linda really, in Paul's words, she hung him on the line, which was a lyric from Maybe I'm Amazed. Linda sobered him up and said, come on, pull yourself together, Paul. You're a Beatle and you can make it on your own. And really, she was Paul's rock and, quite a big part of the story of this period, 69 to 73. During which he formed Wings as well.
Paul McCartney is so iconic. There will never be a day, I don't believe, that someone will not know his name. And you've brought talk about legacy. That's it. It's the McCartney legacy. This goes to 73. So there's a lot in between. This is actually a really nice book, okay? This is hearty. This is a good, solid read. See all this? And you were sharing with me, Alan, most of the time when you have a Beatles book, it's like this much Beatles and this much of the individual artist. But this is all Paul.
Right. So we decided that, his solo work really hasn't gotten its due in terms of, serious exploration. The book isn't really, it's not like a fanzine, we look very seriously and in a very sober way at how he made all the recordings he made, how he put the band together to go on tour, how they rehearsed. We interviewed engineers, musicians, photographers, cover designers, anybody we could find who worked with Paul in any capacity who was willing to talk to us, which most were. Paul didn't cooperate with us, although I had interviewed him a few times when I worked at the Times, so we have those interviews. We have a huge archive of Paul interviews from over the years, audio, video, print, you name it, thousands of things. And so, we wanted to put together a story that would give a lot of perspective and detail that you don't normally get. And if you want to know how a particular recording was made, like let's say Hi, Hi, Hi is your favorite Wings track, you'll read and hear what they went through to put that track together, which was dozens and dozens of takes, and it never was good enough for him because he's a perfectionist, but we quote, we don't give our opinions about the music, but we quote from the reviews of the time because it was important to us to show, basically in a way what his experience was. He puts out a record, these are the reviews, and sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. This book ends with basically the release of Band on the Run, which among his early albums was, his big triumph. After a lot of, critical brickbats for the earlier albums, that one, the critics and buyers all loved. So it ends on a high point, and we then take up from 74 to 80 is volume 2. We don't know how many volumes there'll be.
How did you guys get together? Who called who? Hello, this is Adrian, and hello, this is Alan. And I want to know that moment of saying yes to one another.
Well, I mean, I'm 43, so I don't know what you would say. I was a second or third generation Beatles fan, so I was brought up by very musical parents. You know, if you flick through my dad's record collection, there's McCartney, there's Zeppelin, there's Pink Floyd. You know, I was listening to a lot of great music. My mum was into a lot of northern soul and pop music, so I came from a very musical house. But getting to how we met, there's a big community of Beatles fans online. That kind of talk to one another through forums, and me and Alan, you know, we'd known each other from maybe 20 years ago through these forums, and I started doing this project as what you might call, well, what they call in England a side hustle, you know, because basically I
All
was
that here in America, the same thing.
right. Because basically I'm a freelance worker, so I work from contract to contract, and I wanted something to fill the blanks in between. And I love the Beatles music. I love Paul's music, and I thought, well, no one's really covered, you know, Paul's music from this period in any great detail. So I started putting this book together, and then when I realised it was going to come out like this, I thought I'm probably going to need some help. And knowing that Alan had worked for the Times, you know, it kind of
Very good credential there, right?
it felt like a really good fit, you know, and I'd say my strength is research and storytelling, coming from a television and documentary making background, whereas Alan is, you know, his understanding of music is mind blowing. You know, he'll hand over a chapter to me at times, and I'll read things, and I'm learning things that I didn't know, and then he'll take the research that I've found for each period, and he's learning things that he doesn't know. So it felt like a really good fit, and
Cooking almost, like it seems like ingredients almost, right? And then you kind of blend a little of this, a little of that. Like it seems like it's a real true collaboration. It is. So
It is. It's been a great collaboration. Yeah.
when it started out, and like there's like a fan club and things like that, did you really? I guess my question is, Rita, were you present to the fact that this was going to somehow not define you, but just be part of you, like just part of your DNA? Did you know, or at what point did you realize, like, oh my gosh, this thing became this thing?
I was a Beatle fan before I went to work for them. And then Brian Epstein asked me would I like to be one of his secretaries. Then I took over the running of the fan club, and then I was an employee of NEMS and then Emperor Holdings and then Apple. Although, you know, I didn't work in the offices in Apple, I went down quite a lot, you know, to see the offices. But I never looked at it upon that, but somebody said to me, when you're in the eye of the storm, you don't notice it. And that is very true. Only because I knew the Beatles before Brian Epstein signed them up. So when they were coming into the office, it was just like...
Where's the box of cereal, right? It's like, what's going on? Yeah.
But it did hit me in 1964 in Liverpool Town Hall, you know, when they were made Freeman of the City and the civic reception. And then I realised they are famous.
I started writing books on the Beatles a little over 25 years ago, and one of the things that fascinated me was how they got so popular in the United States so quickly. And so I did this book, The Beatles Are Coming, and in doing the book, see, this is the book here.
Nice.
And I interviewed some of my childhood heroes for the book, and that would be, of course, Walter Cronkite, Mike Wallace, and Edward Newman. Really? Because the press were an important part of the story in broadcasting stories, and I was honored to have Walter Cronkite write the foreword to this book.
You went to high school for the performing arts at Holy Trinity, and at what age did you realize that this is what you want to do professionally?
Honestly, around COVID, so I was in like 8th, 9th grade. I kind of just picked up my guitar and I taught myself, and I just started writing music, and I fell in love with the Beatles, and I think around like 14, 15, I was like, I really want to do this, like this is my thing. Yeah.
So are you promoting yourself through Instagram? Like, okay, tell us about all your socials.
Yeah, so it's just Bethany Villaro on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And yeah, I've just been making videos since probably when I was like 15, and it's always been my thing. And I'm releasing a song in hopefully a few months. It's called The Little. I played it today. Yeah, it means a lot to me. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell us about Little.
So it's basically a song. I kind of struggle like with mental health, and it's really a song that's like my inner monologue sometimes. It's a very like near and dear thing to my heart, but it sounds Beatley. It sounds fun, you know. So yeah, it means a lot to me. I love writing. I love music. I love the Beatles. Paul McCartney's my favorite Beatle. So yeah.
Let's give a shout out to Paul. Paul, this is Donna Drake and
Bethany Valaro, please.
And we love you, Paul.
Yes, I love you, Paul. You're my biggest inspiration, like biggest.
I've been a sculptor since I was playing with mud at the age of about 3.
Okay. Is that also known as dirt? Is that what we say? Mort is dirt? Is that what you're?
I'm very down to earth, a very earthy kind of guy. But I'm very privileged to have sculpted the most popular statue in the UK officially, which is the Beatles statue, of course, on the waterfront there. And this is the next part of that story, really. This is where the Beatles reached the rest of the world thanks to the hospitality of this amazing city, New York.
Now, what will you be sculpting it in?
It will be sculpted in a number of materials, but the end product is the most prestigious of all materials, and that is bronze, of course. Because what we're looking at is to get a permanent tribute to the Fab Four stateside, and this project introduces the concept to the city. We're looking for backers, we're looking for support, which we've certainly got here at the Fan Fest in terms of the fans. What we're looking at now is a buy-in from people who recognised what an important moment in history this was, because the Beatles are part of the Mersey beat, and people like Billy came over, and I believe helped America to try and come to terms and heal the loss of the president. So there's a lot at stake, and it represents a lot that's dear to me personally.
You're going to make me cry.
It's also very historic. Let's face it, the Beatles coming to America, is historic, and it should happen. It should happen.
So for anyone that would like to be involved with this project, we will be sharing the social media. I'm going to step away so that they can have this beautiful, magical moment. And I know that there's somebody else special too, so don't unveil just yet. Hold that moment. So how did you get involved with being like the CEO of this hotel?
Well, I built the hotel, and the building was dark for 20 years after TWA vacated the building. And I drove around and around this building as I'd fly in and out of JFK, and I kept thinking somebody should do something with this building. And one day I woke up and I was the somebody, and I called the Port Authority.
That's amazing.
And I called 212-435-7000, and they said, "Hello, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, how can we direct your call?" And I said, "I'd like to redevelop the TWA Flight Center at JFK." And 5 years later, I had people staying in the building.
And we're here today.
We're here today.
Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it.
Okay, I'm really proud to be here today at the TWA Hotel. Amongst all these legends on the wall, Liz Taylor, Marilyn, Paul Newman, and these legends standing in front of me are Billy J. Kramer and Tyler, who built this incredible hotel. And we're here for a really special unveil, and that is a new project to twin what our team already did in Liverpool, England, which was to create the most popular statue in the UK of the Beatles, of course. And this week is 60 years since the world changed and the Beatles landed, and we're hosted here in JFK Airport. And we're going to unveil a scale model to show New York City and the world what we'd like to do to commemorate that iconic monument. So I'd like to hand over to Billy J. Kramer, the legend himself, to unveil this scale model.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here, Andy.
A pleasure to be here. There we go.
Beatles landing in America for the first time.
Yeah.
That's right.
This statue represents the Beatles on the tarmac at JFK when they first landed, and as you can see, they're overawed with excitement. They couldn't believe the crowds, they couldn't believe the reception they got here in the city, and we're trying to capture that excitement, that moment, the four-headed beast that the Beatles were, this unit, and there's lots of iconic things about this. It's intending to be a kind of a 3D encyclopedia of the history of the Beatles, from John Lennon's famous leather cap made by Helen Anderson, Ringo flashing the peace sign, George Harrison is palming a silver dollar bill, a silver coin with the portrait of Jack Kennedy on 1964, and they've got the flight bags and they're ready to go to the Plaza Hotel. And the 2 nights later, They appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, and the world changed.
I came before the Beatles. I didn't get that kind of reception. I always said that, rock and roll to me was kind of like a bit in the pits, not in the pits, but it was fading a little. And at the time, Rolf Harris was #1 in the charts with Timey Kangaroo Downsport. And I was sitting at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and I thought, this place needs the Beatles to shake the place up. And the Beatles came, and I always say to people, the Beatles opened the doors to America for all of us. Before then, it was a very difficult market. There was people like Cliff Richard, who's still a mega star in Britain, had not done a thing in America, and it took the Beatles, who were very special, to open the door. And I always tell people now, they opened the door back then, and even the people who are making it today, it's all because of what the Beatles did back then.
And that's a wrap on our 2024 coverage of the Fest. It is the festival for all Beatle fans around the world. Thanks for watching.